Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for joining us in this Goal Line webinar today. Just going to confirm right out the gate that you guys can hear me. It looks to me like you can, mostly because my last webinar, I had my headset on mute and I didn't realize for several minutes. So just making sure that we're all able to hear today. We are talking today about website and communication on your Goal Line platform. So we're going to look a little bit at the gold and silver layout, which are the two popular layouts that you'll have on your Goal Line site. Um, a few housekeeping items. You'll notice that you can't speak throughout the webinar, but there is a chat option. So thank you, Alan, for using the chat option to let me know that you can hear me. So there is a chat option. You can feel free to throw your questions in the chat as we go along. You can throw them in as we go or wait until the end. We should have some time at the end of the webinar to go over any questions. But you'll also be able to watch this on replay. So for anybody who's not watching it live right now, you will be notified as soon as the webinar is over with a link to the recording. And even if you are here live, you will still receive that recording link. And we typically also will put our webinar recordings up on our YouTube channel. So if there's anyone else within your organization who'd like to take advantage of what we learned here today, you can always point them to our Goal Line YouTube channel. Today's topic, as I mentioned, is the website and communication. So we're going to talk about how to configure your website and some of the different standard options that you have, your site configuration settings. We're going to take a deeper dive into how to create web pages and news articles, and then we're going to look at a few different ways for you to communicate with your membership through some of the email tools that are available. I'm going to be using a couple of demo sites today. And because I do want to refer to the gold and silver layouts, I do want to just make sure that we're all on the same page as to which ones those are. The demo site we're looking at right now is Trevor Scott's Goal Line demo. This is a silver layout. So what we have, the elements of a silver layout are going to be your logo in the upper left-hand corner. The name of your site is going to be listed right next to your logo. If you ever need that to say something different, you can reach out to the Goal Line support team and we can make that update for you. We then see our top menu rows. We have a first row and a second row of menu items that can go in your standard top menu. That's going to be the same whether you're using a gold or a silver layout. Then we have a background image here. This background image is one that you as an administrator are able to upload to the site. You can swap this image out as frequently as you'd like. And what you're going to see superimposed over top of your Goal Line, or sorry, of your background image is going to be news articles over on this side. And this, if you have 10 of them, they could be 10 scrolling through here. It could just be 5. You do have some control over that, and we'll pop into our settings to see how we do that. You're also going to see ads over on the right-hand side. Right now, we have a user-created ad that's placed here. So this is an ad created in the system that was placed on the homepage. If you're in Goal Line's national ad program, you may also see an additional ad that's served by Google Ad Choices. If you have the ad program enabled so that you're seeing those Google Ad Choices ads, you do need to display your background image in a specific way in order for you to also place your own advertising in this area here. And we'll get into a little bit more about what I mean by that. As we scroll down, we're going to see this is called the Scrolling Game Center, and this is an optional module that you're going to be able to turn on or off. Below that, we have what we call call-out boxes. In this case, we're seeing 4 of them. You're going to have configurable choices here that this could be 2, 3, or 4 separate modules. And then as we go below, we're going to see our content modules here. We can see that we have 4 rows of content modules, and these are what appear to be just news articles that are placed on the page. As I look at these, I can click and go and read that news article. This area right now is configured to be 4 rows of these larger rectangular boxes. You can also make a configuration change that turns this into 8 more, I think they are still rectangle, I think officially, but they're a little bit more square-like. So you could end up having 8 smaller modules here instead of 4 larger modules. It really is going to depend on the amount of content you have as an organization, which one is going to be best for you. And then we have 3 modules that go down the side. The 3 modules here, typically it's gonna be a lot of upcoming practices, upcoming games, possibly recent results for recently scored games. And there's all kinds of other things you can place in your modules. For example, here, this is just an image that we've placed in here. That image could be associated with a hyperlink that can go outside of your goal line site or somewhere within it. And we are gonna look at the options for that. But those are the elements that we see in a silver layout of a goal line site. I'm going to hop over and we're going to look at, that's the admin side, at the gold layout. So the gold layout is, it's designed by our design team. We do a custom designed background and banner based on your logo and the colors you've provided, as well as any imagery that you want to provide from your association. So when you first get started with Goal Line, your design questionnaire, if you're going with a gold layout, is going to ask you what kind of logos and images you have. And then our design team is going to configure something custom to your site for your background image and banner. The other elements, as I mentioned, are similar. So we have our top rows of menu. We have a first row and a second row. We also have an optional scrolling game center. The difference here is that if you want to turn the scrolling game center on or off, you do have to contact support because it's not part of your site configuration tools. And then we have the structure of the rest of your homepage. So this in the middle is going to be your front page news slider. And this is going to slide 5 news articles with their image across the screen. And what you should see is the article image. And if there is none, you'll probably see a goal line image. But I do generally recommend that you get an image for your organization to associate with news articles so that it's more custom to you. You're also going to see the article title, and then the news article summary is going to be placed over here as well. So as you can see, I love 21 pilots, and if I click to read more, I'm going to be seeing that news article, and I don't have the right embedding here, but that's what I'm going to see when I click into that. This is always going to scroll through your 5 most recent news articles as long as they've been selected as being shown in your news slider. You are able to create news articles that don't go in there, and we'll look at that when we look at creating articles. Below that, we have 3 callout boxes, and these callout boxes are similar to the silver layout. However, you can't change how many there are. You can change what goes into them, and there's a bunch of standard items that you're able to select, as well as the option to create an image and a link of your own. Below that, we're going to see the recent headlines. So regardless of whether or not they were in your front page news slider, your recent headlines are going to list below, and this is going to show up to 10 news articles. The column on the right-hand side, if you are in Goal Line's national ad program, it is going to display a Goal Line ad. And then you also have the option of creating your own ads. Regardless of whether you're in the ad program, you can always create your own ads. And if I place it on my homepage, this is where it's going to show. I do have the weather widget here enabled, but I'm gonna disable that because I don't have a proper code. And then we have some options to enable some of the modules that go over here. So latest scores, upcoming games, upcoming practices. These are things that you can optionally place in your right column. There are some items that do have to be turned on the support side of things, but generally speaking, all of the available options are going to be toggled on so that you can control those through your site configuration tool. So that's the general layout of the gold and silver websites. When we hop into the back end or the admin control panel, the admin control panel is going to look exactly the same. You're going to have all of the same options. The only exception is that there is a specific tool to manage your silver website layout content. And so we'll hop into there shortly here, but just to give a quick overview, to navigate to the areas that are going to be of concern in this particular webinar, it's mostly going to be found in website and email when we get into that. You can also add any of your frequently used items to a favorites so that they show up at the top. So if all you do is create news articles, you can create a favorite so that that's always at the top and you don't have to go find it. So I'm going to click on website, and we're going to see that it's going to be divided into a couple of areas. So we're going to have our content area, our settings area, and I don't know why we put this here, but commerce is located here. So this is for use with registration. We're going to be concerned with our site configuration here and our standard menu settings. And then we're going to take a dive into actually creating content using creating web page and using creating news articles and a few of the other areas that you can create content for your site. So hopping into site configuration, remember I am on a silver website layout, but I do want to show that there are some items that are available for you to toggle on and off. This is a feature that you're not going to use very frequently, but it is something that you want to give a good review to see if there's anything that you want enabled that may not be showing at the moment. For example, photo galleries. Photo galleries are a feature that are available within the Goalline platform, and they can be at the association or master menu level, or they can be available at the team level. If you don't want those to be available, you can just keep this to no. But if you do want to have association or team photo galleries available, you can turn them on here. When you have them on, they're going to become a standard menu setting that you're able to place in your menu along with any other items. There are some other available options here for your stats and things. So this is going to depend really on how you manage stats and schedules, whether or not you collect individual statistics and that type of thing. For example, if you don't collect individual player stats, then your league leaders item is not going to be something you're going to want to display because it's just not going to be available. There's not going to be any stats included in that. Showing your latest scores, you can turn this on or off, and that's just going to update your ability to use those things. So that's for the gold layout, for example. This is how I would show the latest team scores in the right sidebar when I'm looking at our gold layout over here. So I'll just navigate a little bit and get to a division over here. And so that's where we can see these again. But if I have the team scores set, it's going to be showing me a restricted view to the league or division that I'm looking at, as opposed to just latest scores from across the entire organization. So there are some items in here that you may want to review and toggle on and off. And then once you've got that configured, that's really what you're going to be mostly concerned with. There are some front page display settings that if you have a hybrid of both divisions and rep teams or travel teams, you may want to select which one of them is the one that we want to see when we're putting certain things in the menu. So we are going to dive into standard menu settings. So I want to address a little bit that you can control a little bit of how that navigation is going to work. So because I have both teams and leagues or divisions, I have the option to choose which one of those is going to be kind of the primary when I'm selecting divisions as a menu item. And you can see that I have the option for league or team. The default is generally, if it still says default, that just means it's your choice has already been applied, and if you don't make any changes, it's going to keep behaving the same. But if you do find that over time you develop that hybrid that you didn't have before, you may want to make a choice there. And that's really going to play into a little bit of how you organize your menu. Put a team or standard menu items on the second row. This is really only applicable if your organization just has one single team. And that's not uncommon for Goalline partners to be one single team, just wanting to have a whole website that's dedicated to your whole team. So instead of using your second menu row to be regular items or other web pages, you're just going to be placing that team menu directly in that menu, that second row. So there's no navigation required by anybody visiting the site because if they want to see the roster, they're going to see the roster of the one team that we actually care about. The league homepage and team homepage, even if you don't have leagues, you'll probably want to just make sure that this goes to league standings. And in general, I recommend that we go to league standings for league and team schedule for teams. The other option for teams is that you can land on a news item. And that news item is going to really need you to actually create news articles at the team level. Otherwise, there's not going to be any content to be shown there, which is why generally going directly to the schedule is the best option for if I click on a team, the first thing I want to see is the schedule. And then if I do feel like navigating around to the other team menu items, I can do that myself. If you have that going to news, I now have to click on schedule to get to view that schedule. Your league homepage option, it can be the schedule, it can be news, and it can be standings. I almost always recommend that you leave it as standings because, again, that navigation and that option to navigate to other parts of your division menu are going to be available for you. If you go to the schedule, your schedule is going to be in a list view for the whole division, and it's not going to be team specific. So that's not usually as helpful. And most of the time, when folks are navigating to your site and they click on a division page, they want to see the standings first. So those are the recommended settings that you select there. The default team calendar view, not the registrant, I suppose, the person visiting the site is going to be able to change it for themselves back and forth between list or calendar view, but the team schedule view is almost always best viewed as a calendar view. It's a nice, easy to see view of the schedule, and if I do want to see it in a list instead, I can always click the button on the screen that's going to let me see it as a list, but you're going to set the default in here. So those are the general settings in your site configuration that are going to be applicable whether you have a gold layout or a silver layout. The silver layout has this additional option here, which is the launch homepage customization tool button. When I click on this, it's going to show me a bit of a look of what the public side of my website currently looks like. It's a little squished so that we can see all the content. So it's not exactly what it looks like on the public side, but it's enough so that we can see all of the different modules. As I hover over different areas, I'm going to see that that's going to turn green for me. And whenever something has turned green, it means I can click on it to edit it. And then we have these options over on the side that we can drag and drop into different areas. I'm going to click on the background image here, make it green. And then when I click on it, it's going to bring up the background image. And now I can either reuse another one that I've used before, or I can upload a new photo and use that instead. You do need to make sure that you're respecting the minimum pixel requirements of your background image, because if it's not set to those minimum requirements, it's not going to be able to be uploaded. So you do have to respect that. But that's how you can update the background image. So just click to use one that you've used before, or go ahead and upload a new photo and use that one. When I hover over here, it's showing up this green module because there's ads there, so I can edit advertisements. So this is just telling me that that's where I'm going to go if I want to continue and do that. I generally wouldn't manage ads directly from the site configuration tool. It's best to just manage your ads and then go ahead and make sure that you know the placement that you want for those. The news articles, if I click over here on news articles, this is where I get that option of how many articles do I want it to scroll through, and we can go up to 10. Typically, 4 or 5 is a good amount to scroll through, but you can do that up to 10, and it's just going to scroll through the article title and article summary if you've provided one, and provide a link to go directly to read the news article. So that's what's going to happen there. But news articles do have to be displayed on this area. So as soon as you have a news article, that's what's going to be showing up in this area. When I hover over things like this scrolling game center, if I click on that, it's going to ask me if I want to not display it. So I can choose to not have that displayed at all. A lot of organizations will tend to turn it off in their off season if you actually have a significant off season. But otherwise, you can just leave it enabled year round, and it's always going to show the past 10 and upcoming 10 games across your organization. When we get below, this is where we're going to start using what I always call the remote control. So the remote control over here shows us a whole bunch of display options. The display options are going to help me update my color scheme if I want to change the color scheme. So it's going to use all kinds of different professional sports teams from different sports. So I can select one that matches an existing professional sports team's color scheme, or you can have a custom scheme if that was done through the design team. I'm going to scroll up so we can see our background image here so we can show you a couple of different ways. I mentioned at the very beginning, if you are going to show your own ad, but you're also in Goalline's ad program, you do need to make sure that you've selected your image to be tall. And it even indicates right here, this means 2 ads. If it's short, only 1 ad can display. And so you can't place your own ad on the homepage if you've done the short option and you're in the Goalline National Ad Program. If you're not in the National Ad Program, you can do the short one, no problem. So I'm going to click on that. So it just makes the image exactly as it sounds. It makes it shorter. So we're not seeing the full gamut of that image. It's another reason for that minimum size requirement to be respected so that the site can behave and adjust itself accordingly, which is really the major benefit and the main purpose of the silver layout is that it's highly responsive to the different devices that it's being used on. Another option we can see here is darker or as uploaded. So darker or as uploaded, again, is exactly what it sounds like. So if I click darker, it's just adding a bit of darkness and a little bit of shading over top of the image that I've uploaded. It doesn't make it drastically different, but what tends to happen is it helps your scrolling news items to pop a little bit more. And this is particularly useful if the background image you have is very, very light. I've seen examples where people will select a photo of a hockey rink. There's a lot of white in a hockey rink. So making it the darker option is just going to make it so that anything that's white superimposed on top of that is going to pop a little bit all by itself. The call outs again, we can change that from 2, 3, or 4. So right now we have 4, but if I change that to 3, it's just going to take the first 3 and drop the other one off. I can change this as often as I'd like, but generally, once you've made your selections for how many content modules you're going to use, you don't typically want to change that up too much. And then we see the option here where we can switch between that 4 rows that we see right now versus the 2x4 grid. So I'm going to click on that 2x4 grid. So we can see here lots more content. And sometimes people can find this a little bit overwhelming. But this website actually has a couple of great examples of how these modules can be filled with content all the time that's always updating. Um, One of the things that people struggle with is, what do I put in all of these modules? With the silver layout, you have a minimum of 9 modules that need to have content in them, and you can have up to 15. And so if you have lots of content, let's say you have 3 or 4 major divisions that do individual stats, and you want to have a highlight of all of those divisions in some way, shape, or form on your homepage, you can use some of the stats modules that I'll show you how to drag and drop in here. So we're seeing league leaders from our Halifax Boys U18 AAA. And so we're seeing who the points leaders are. And this is updating itself all the time by virtue of you doing the day to day of scheduling games and then going and reporting the scores of those games. And that kind of thing with your goal line site, that's what you're doing anyway. That's the primary purpose of your goal line website, is to have your schedule and recording your scores. Goal line's going to automatically do all your sport math for you. And if you are tracking individual stats like who scored and who received assists, you're going to have all of these extra options for what kind of statistics modules you can throw into your silver layout. Over here, I'm just going to move this so we can see a little bit more here. You can see we've got lots of options that we can drag and drop into our modules. Because I was just talking about scheduling and stats stuff, I am going to look more specifically at this one. So we've got our scheduling options. So that's our recent scores, recent or upcoming games, upcoming practices, upcoming events. So these are schedule items that I can drag this item and drop it in, and wherever it turns a darker green is where it's going to drop. So I can drop in upcoming events into this module instead of the image that was there before. We've got next event up here. We've got upcoming games here. So let's do upcoming practices, and we'll put that one in our module here. So now we've got upcoming practices, upcoming games, upcoming events, and we've got some stats modules here. And those are the ones that I can do here. Because this demo site is a multi-sport site, we are seeing a really long list of available stats. But don't worry, your site, being your sport, is going to have the statistics options that apply to your sport. So in general, you're not going to see RBI leaders if you're a soccer organization or a basketball organization, but you will see whatever statistics options are applicable to you. So points leaders is points, not just goals, and assists is another option that's available. So assists leaders can be there. So here we have our points leader and our goals leader, but we don't have an assist leader, and that's from U18 AAA boys. Let's go ahead and find U18 AAA. Let's see here. AAA boys. Here we go. So now we see our assists leaders, our points leaders, our goals leaders, all from the Halifax Boys U18. So we can do that. I can do just points for all my different divisions, because notice how as soon as I open this up, I have lots of divisions that have statistics. So this isn't aggregating stats across divisions. It's using a single division. So this is just one way that you can think about how can you have your website be constantly up to date and constantly being updated without you having to do a whole heck of a lot of work, and you don't have to go in there and tabulate or create any of these tables. So as we scroll down, I think that's about it on this side here is just all of the different options that you have. You can see a lot of volleyball options in here. So volleyball, baseball, soccer, hockey, whatever sport you are, you're going to find options in here for you to be able to do that. Now, if you, as I mentioned earlier, if you're not taking individual stats. If you're just reporting the final score of a game, then you're not going to want to use any of these individual stats calculators because they're not going to have any individual stats. You're just going to know that the team won 2-0, but you're not entering who scored those two goals if you're not tabulating those stats. So that's the general how you're going to use your Silver layout site configuration tool. So this is how you can customize your homepage. And as soon as you're ready to publish those changes, you can. If you're not sure how many things you changed, you can actually view your changes and you can see what you've done before you go and actually publish. So if I publish, I'm changing all of these things. I'm not going to click publish. I'm going to go back and go back into it. Just let's see here. Let's see. Yeah, we'll do short, and I'll publish that. So we'll see how the public side of the site, when I refresh over here, which I can do by clicking the home screen, is going to update. And now we're seeing the shorter module. So we're seeing some different changes. So that's our silver layout, how you're going to update the modules. I'm going to hop into the back end of our gold layout so that we can take a look at how do I impact these three modules over here. So on my gold layout, I'm going to see the same thing. You can see here on this site, I've got some favorites set up for the things I do really frequently. So I'm going to go website again, site configuration again. And here, instead of seeing a separate option for it, I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom of this page and it's going to have my 3 callout boxes available for me to select what I want to go in them. So with your callout boxes, your options are slightly more limited here. So you're going to have all of the options that you can see here. So next or upcoming events, recent scores, upcoming games, upcoming practices, up to 3 news articles, tonight's games, which are going to show the games that are happening on today's date. An RSS feed is exactly what it sounds like here. We can see we have an RSS feed set up over here where we're pulling in updates from another website. And this doesn't have to be another Goal Line website. This can be any website that provides an RSS feed. So whatever website it is that you want to have a feed to, you're going to select, you're going to go to that site and collect the RSS feed URL. And then when you select RSS feed, you're able to place that feed address in here. And the options for how you label that are going to be available in here too. More news is often the one that people will use for that because it's coming from somewhere else and it's going to be news articles that you can click out to. Just going to click over here. So when we see this, I see live updates. And notice how if I click on one of these news articles, it's going to open in a new tab and it's going to take me to that URL. In that case, I think the URL is not valid anymore for the one that I happen to have in my demo site over here. But that's as simple as that is. So you're going to select what you want to show and then what you want it to be labeled and have that. Have your call out updated. There's some options for image upload with text, which is what I've used here. It's a really popular option because it lets you link to other things in your site. So it lets you link to any of your own user created web pages, as well as any Goal Line standard items, even if you don't have them listed in any other menu. I right now have mine going to the referee login. So when I log in or when I click on this, it's going to take me to the referee login for my site. That's because my demo site typically is designed for referee demonstrations. So when I click over here, it's just going to take me to the officials login area. So you can do that to take you to any other web page that you'd like to go to. And once you have any user created web page you have will be listed in there. And you're just going to upload your own image to use with that. And once you've saved your changes down at the bottom, that's going to automatically update and be a live update on the site. The upcoming games, it will do exactly like what we saw on the silver layout. It's just going to list any upcoming games that are happening. This is in addition to possibly the module that you've decided to also show in your right module, but that's entirely up to you how you want to go ahead and display those. So that's how you're going to impact your website layout when you have the gold. If you want the scrolling game center turned on or off, you contact support for that, but otherwise you're going to go to your site configuration tool and manage what you want in your call callout boxes and which of these modules you want down the side here. If you also find that you have a broken weather widget here, you can let us know too, and we can disable that for you. But you don't have the ability to turn that on or off. I think actually that's one thing I did forget. I'm going to hop in over here real quick one more time. So there is a weather widget option available over on our Silver site. Um, Oh, it's not on this one. But in the upper right-hand corner, if the feature's enabled, which it typically is, you'll see an option for your. Oh, there we go. There we go. There we go. So we can see our weather widget here. So we can choose to display the weather, but I can also choose not to display the weather. It really depends on your type of organization. If you cover a really large geographic area, you may not want to display the weather. If you're a provincial organization, you might not want to display the weather, but if you are, an individual city, perhaps you do. If you are in Halifax, Nova Scotia, you know that weather is bleak right now, so maybe you don't want to display it. But it is a useful tool to have, so you can manage that yourself on your Silver layout. So I'm going to exit out of there now. So that is how we do our site configuration. The next thing I'm going to pop into is our standard menu settings. And this is going to be exactly the same whether you're using the Silver layout or the Gold layout. So standard menu settings is exactly what it sounds like. Goalline is full of all kinds of standard items because we understand that you are an organization that's going to need to create news and events and tryouts. You have an executive or a board that needs to be listed. You know that we know that you have schedules, teams, leagues, and all these things to display. So your list of standard menu items may be slightly different than the list that I see here. A big example, kind of the easy examples are, if you're not using Goalline's advanced ref system, you're not going to see the option to place an official's login in your menu. If you're not using Goalline's registration tools, you're not going to see the option to place registration forms or registration account in your menu. But in general, all of the typical items that we see here, you're going to be able to select them and place them in your menus. There are some restrictions and limitations on how you can manage your menu. So we'll talk a little bit about the difference between first row, second row, not displayed, and placed below. So over here, our first one is news archives. This is set as placed below about, which means when I go to that website and I see about, I can see news articles right here, and that's going to take me to the news archive. Notice how it says news articles here and not news archives. So that's another thing that you can influence. I kind of hinted at that as well when we talk about executive. If you call it a board of directors or a committee, you can change the label here. You don't change the item, but you change the way it appears on the public side. And by doing the clicking edit title, that's how you can do that. So this is called news archives, but we want to call it news articles. If I want it to be old news, I can change it to be old news instead. And when I save that and we take a look at the public side, now we have old news in here instead of news articles. Sorry, Trevor, for changing your demo site on you. Some other items that are important to look at is some items that you can't place wherever you want. Notice how you can't place some of these items in the second row or below another page. And that's because these items here tend to come with their own version of subpages. And so we don't want to have confusing infinite layers of menu. So you are only able to place your team listing, your division listing, your league/division, and then another division, which I will hop into that and kind of explain what we mean and what the difference is between league and division, because I often use those terms interchangeably on Goalline. And I apologize for any kind of advanced confusion there. But you can see here how you can place whatever you want in your top menu, first row, second row, not displayed at all, which doesn't mean it's not available. It just means it's not displayed in the menu. It is still an active URL that will exist. It's just a matter of whether or not you want people to navigate to it in that way. When it comes to some of these items, when you're placing them directly in your menu, you may run into some issues related to the maximum number of content or items that can be in the menu. There is both a maximum number of items as well as character limitations on your top and second menu row. The top menu can contain 7 items, and the bottom row, a second row, can contain 9 items. I have seen the system allow some exceptions, but I'm not quite sure how. But I have seen some exceptions there. And typically speaking, your menu item has to be 20 characters or less. If you are able to get a menu item that has more characters than that, you may be limiting the ability to have additional items in the menu. And so you might run into an issue where it won't let you save your menu settings because it's going to fill your menu too much. So that's why it's really important to understand why using web pages and using place item below is really important to figure out. Some recommendations I make is that you always create an About Us web page, because everyone needs to kind of highlight their organization. About Us is usually something where you talk about what sport you are, what your mission is, how long you've been around, what kind of programming you offer. And then in that same vein would be things like your executive or your board of directors, maybe a master schedule that I can see in there, maybe a venue listing that for all the venues that you use. So there's different things that make sense to place underneath an About Us page. And I say About Us, but get to know us, about Orleans Little League, about whatever organization you are. It just makes it easier for you to organize your menu items. If you create a web page that captures a lot of items that you can place under there, then you're making it easy for folks to navigate. And that's really what you want to be thinking about with this whole process: is how do you want people to be navigating your site? You want to make it obviously as easy as possible, but you also have to understand that you're going to have audiences from all over your organization. So you're going to have some folks who don't care at all about stats and they just care about signing their kid up for T-ball. And then you're going to have some people who want to come to your site and find out what kind of elite programs you have, what kind of clinics you're running, who your board members are, how do I get involved in volunteering. So there's lots of different things that your organization is going to want to display as information. So just keep in mind that using your user created web pages, you can create sub pages using these standard menu items. I see a lot of times, if you are using the referee system, that you would have a ref corner page, and that ref corner page might be a smart place to place your referee login, so that it can be underneath the referee corner, and then have additional web pages under there about other referee resources and things like that. So that's how you're going to take a look at this. I'm gonna come back to this whole what's the difference between a league and a division, and we're gonna kind of demonstrate a little bit of what happens when you have certain things placed in your menu. I will also point out that when you have certain items, so for example, registration forms are going to try to display all of your registration forms in the menu that are currently published, set to yes, I want to show this in my menu. So if you have 3 or 4 open registrations going on at all times, that means you have 3 or 4 separate menu items that are going to try to place themselves in your, in this case, second menu row. That is going to fill your menu very, very quickly. And so you may want to create your own web page that talks about registration or the programs you offer, and create direct links. Or I am going to show you a way to create a web page that has its own redirect link, so you can create kind of fake menu buttons. Then you can trick the navigation a little bit around. When you save your menu settings, and we'll see if I don't know if I screwed anything up there. There we go. Now you have the option here to reorder the first row or the second row of your menu, and this is going left to right. So if I want to reorder my menu items, this is saying right now, the far left is going to be about, and then official login is at the end. But if I want the official login to actually be right next to that about page, I can make that change in here, and I can reconfirm that order. And now again, real time, we're going to see that that official login is now placed directly next to this page instead of being at the end where it was before. I can do the same thing for that second row. And then this also asks me if I want to go and look at web pages, or if I want to go back into standard menu settings and possibly make some more changes. I'm going to just go right back out to website because I do want to talk about web pages, but I want to show you the two different tiles that you're going to use in order to get there. So if you want to just create one that doesn't exist yet at all, you want to create a whole new web page for your site, you're going to click on create web page. But if you've already created one and you just want to edit it, you're going to go to manage web pages and it's going to list all of your pages for you. So I'm going to click create web page and we're going to just start from scratch. The first thing I need to give it is a title, and I do need to give it a title. You do want to respect as much as you can character limitations. I don't think there's an actual limit on the characters that can be placed in the title of your web page. That being said, if you try to place it in a menu that makes the menu too full, you will be prevented from making that save, and you might have to just adjust the title of your web page. So we can have a, I'm going to create a referee corner. So we're going to have a referee corner web page over here. And this is going to be ref related content, exciting stuff. Maybe register here, clinics are upcoming, etc. Whatever it is that you want to do here. You have options to edit your web page using what we call the WYSIWYG editor, which stands for what you see is what you get. So you're using these formatting options that are very similar to any other word processing software for your font type, your alignments, and things like that. You will notice that these are really simple options. The whole idea is that you want to create a page that has content that's legible and easy and lays everything out the way that you want it, but you do have some really fun options available in here. I do see sometimes people will create some really elaborate web pages that have tons and tons of content, and that's fantastic. And you can choose to either have lots of smaller web pages with less content, or you can have one really long, like in a huge scrolling kind of web page. Nothing wrong with doing that. But I want to show you something really fun that I like to do, and that is to kind of create maybe a table of contents of type, like maybe at the very top, you can have, go directly to clinics and have this be a link that links us down to the clinics area. So content about clinics. So if I want people to be drawn directly to this, what I can do is create an anchor. When I create an anchor, I give it a name. So I'm going to just call it clinics. That's not how you spell things, is it? Clinics. Yeah, that's how you spell that. So, all right, I have now an anchor on clinics. And now if I go here and I want to say go directly to clinics, I can create a link to an anchor in the text. And it's going to find any anchors that I created. And now we're going to go there. So when I create this web page and publish it, if you're looking at the very top, you're going to see go directly to clinics, and it's going to scroll you all the way down to the section of content that has this anchor in it. And you can do an infinite number of anchors. They do have to be within the page, but linking to an anchor is a great way for you to have lots and lots of content, but organized in a really nice and easy way. Another method for organizing your content in a really easy way is to use the tables feature. This is something I see used a lot for sponsors. So, thank you to our sponsors. Might be something you have at the top, lots of information, maybe about how do I become a sponsor, that kind of thing. And then maybe you want to just highlight some of your special sponsors. I can create a table that has enough boxes in it for me to place my sponsor's image and link within it, and have it nice and organized. One of the things I always like to do is talk about the border size. So if you want it to be a table so that you can organize it very rigidly without having to worry about, spacing and alignment and that kind of thing, you can create a table that has border size of 0, which makes the lines of your table invisible while still organizing the content. So you are still going to see it on this side. So I can put in, logo 1, logo 2, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they'll be evenly spaced and they'll be, taken care of that way. But when we see it on the public side, this little grid that we can see here in the description area, we wouldn't see that on the public side of the site. So it makes a nice, easy, clean table where images look really good, because these boxes, of course, will resize themselves if you choose to place an image. So how do I place an image in one of these boxes, or anywhere else for that matter? You're going to select the option here for an image. The very first thing you're going to see is this pop-up box. Until you've actually added images, you are going to immediately click Browse Server and then upload any images that you need. Of course, we've got lots on this particular demo site, so this lets me use any image that's already been used on this website before. But if I don't have it here yet, I can click the upload option, and it's exactly what it seems like. You browse your computer and you upload your file. If I want to click and use one of the images now that I've uploaded it, I just double click on the image and it's going to place it in there for me. It's going to show me what that height and width is. And I can change that aspect, or I can change the height and width, and I can lock or unlock the aspect ratio. Obviously, unlocking aspect ratios is never a safe idea because it will distort your image. But just to note that that is an option, and you can always revert your changes back to whatever the original was. You can add a few other little advanced options in here if you want to create borders and outline space and things like that. You can certainly do that. But really, that's all it takes is you upload, you browse your server for your Goalline website server of images, and you double click the image that you want to use. And now I'll click OK in here. And now you can see the box is nice and big so that this image can fit into it. And I can, add all kinds of extra content about the image if I want to, and do things that way. And then I can go and do another one, select an image again, and I can, maybe if I find another image, let's see, we'll just go and use this one. This one has a much, much, much smaller dimension. So I'm going to just change that to be 500 like the other one, or at least, well, that's probably not a good idea with such a tiny image. But as you can see, it's as simple as just updating the sizing requirements that you have there. So that is how we can create tables and how you can insert images. The next thing I did talk about linking to an anchor, but just in general, their hyperlinks are a huge part of what you're going to be doing. If this is a sponsor, or if you just want to link to anything for any other reason, you highlight your text that you want to be the link, or you click on an image that you want to be the link, and you click the hyperlink button. The default here is going to assume you want to link to another URL. It is going to default the protocol here. So if you know that it's a different protocol, you can do that. But generally speaking, there's nothing wrong with using HTTP, even if the URL is served over HTTPS. So the URL you're going to put in there, so we can do, let's say, Goalline. That's not how you spell Goalline, goalline.ca. I'm going to put the www. So I put my URL in here. I can just say, okay. The default behavior is going to be that no matter what URL I put here, it's going to overtake the tab I'm on and load this URL on my current tab. If I don't want that to happen, I can go to the target tab and I can set a different target. New window with the bracket underscore blank. This is opening in a new tab in your current browser. That's the most popular option. A pop-up window is an option, but remember that most computers are probably not going to allow that to open. So either you don't change the target and you allow it to just take over the current screen, or you use the new window with the bracket underscore blank option so that it will open in a new tab. And my recommendation is always based on, is it in your site or is it outside of your site? If it's in your site, don't worry about it. If it's outside of your site, you want it to open in a new tab so that they're not taken away from your Goalline site, having to click back on their browser and right click on their own to open that link in a new tab. So I am going to do the new window blank. And now we have a link there. Let's see if there's anything else that's important to talk about here. So, Flash images. So you are able to embed YouTube videos on a web page or any other area in the site where you see this option for using the WYSIWYG editor. If you embed a Flash, it uses the Flash icon. I do understand that Flash is no longer a thing. However, this is really more of a YouTube thing. So you're going to go and it's a YouTube embed. And so you take your YouTube URL, you put it here, you click the insert button, and then you say, okay. Again, you can play around with some of those properties, but generally speaking, if it's not just directly played in the place where you embedded it, they're going to click to view on YouTube anyway, because YouTube does have kind of restrictions in the way that you can adjust the properties of an embedded YouTube video. So that's how you can play embed a YouTube video. You can embed live YouTube video feeds, but you do it in exactly the same way. You just have to have the appropriate URL to enter here, insert that, and away you go. Everything else is pretty straightforward: lists, bulleted lists, the anchor text we talked about, the ability to update the size and style. I did mention it's very basic. So it's the idea is that you're not, putting out all this content that could be difficult for people to read. And another thing that came up in a training that I was doing earlier today, so I think it's important to mention, thanks again, Alan, is copying and pasting. So this is something that I've always, I've worked at Goalline for a long, long time. I've always known that you shouldn't use copy and paste too much, but it's really important to, if you're going to use copy paste, that you clear the formatting, especially if you're copying from either another web page or something like Word. Microsoft Word is very, very rich in formatting, even if you don't think it is. There's a lot of spacing and paragraphing and things like that that go into Microsoft Word that are sort of hidden formats that you don't notice. So if you want to copy and paste, you should be trying to use the actual paste option in here, where now you paste your content and say, okay, all this is going to do is clean the formatting for you, as if you did the clear formatting option yourself prior. If you're not a fan of clicking on that and having to do it in there, my shortcut is that Control Shift V will paste with no formatting. So if you're using anything but a Mac, that is an option for you. I don't know how the hotkey situation would work there on a Mac, but on PC, Control Shift and V does it pastes, but it pastes with removing all of the formatting that was in the content to begin with. So just keep that in mind. So now that we have all this content, we have to decide, where are we putting this? I would like for this to go in the top menu first row. I might have trouble doing that. So we'll see. I'm going to put it in the second row, actually. So top menu, second row. I'm just going to look through here, and we'll talk about why I have all these other options over here too. So top menu, second row is where I want to put this. I don't need it to be password protected, but if I did, I could enter a password and only the people with the password would be able to view that web page. It's a great option for things like board minutes, or things that are private to a certain group of people within your organization. You can use password protected pages. I think the most common one I see it for is suspension information and board minutes, AGM minutes, things like that. So I'm not going to password protect this, but you can, and it's just typed, and you're not going to see any hashing or encryption here. Anybody who has access to manage web pages at the menu you're at is going to be able to see this password. So this password is strictly to protect the public side of the site from people being able to see that web page without using the password. So I'm going to save this page. Now that I've created that page, let's go to the public side. We'll refresh. And we're going to see that now I have Referee Corner. So when I click on Referee Corner, we can see our page. And if I go directly to Clinics, it took me and brought Clinics right to the top of the screen. Here's where we can see that table that I created that has no borders, but everything is kind of lined up, aside from the fact that I chose some pretty awful images to put beside each other. And notice how when I hover over this one, it's a hyperlink. And that hyperlink is going to open in a new tab like I wanted it to, and it's going to open the URL that I entered. So that's how we're going to create content for your site. Now we're going to go in and look at, how do I create a news article? And this is going to lead us into the last topic, which is how to email from the system. Add edit delete news articles is going to be very, very similar to what we saw with creating a web page when it comes to actually building the article itself. But there are a few other requirements and options that you have when creating a news article. Obviously, you do want to give it a title. That title should be apt and timely. If it's something that you probably have articles about on a season to season basis, like Skills Camp, for example. You probably run multiple Skills Camps. So maybe Skills Camp 2024 or Skills Camp Winter 2024. Maybe that's a great title so that you can always see it in your list down the road and know which one it was. Maybe you want to copy it and use it again later. So enter a title. The published date you do have to enter, and that can be today. It can be a date in the past. It just has to, you do have to select a day. So if we select that it's published as of February 4th at 12 p.m. and I am in the Atlantic time zone. So that's why it's showing Atlantic here to me. If you're in the Eastern time zone, it's going to show you the Eastern time zone, but you can also make a specific choice here. The expiry date is when this article can no longer be viewed on the public side of the site. You do not have to enter anything here. You don't have to ever have it expire. And there's not really a lot of use cases for why you might want an article or excuse me, article to expire. Your article publishing options is going to default that you do want to display the publish date, but you don't have to. If you don't, it might be more difficult for folks to know whether or not the information they're seeing is current. So I do often recommend that you put a publish date. I actually think the whole internet should require publish dates on any kind of article so that you always know whether or not you're looking at something that's 2 days old or 2 years old. If you do have a front page news slider, you can keep this at the top of it, but actually that's not applicable to the gold or the silver. So this item wouldn't make any difference. And then push the article to league and team newsfeed. This is applicable if you are creating a news article from the master menu. You can click this button and it will recreate the article on all of your league and team pages so that everyone, when they go to their league news or team news, will see this article as well as seeing it on the main site. You can add a photo. Again, if you don't have a specific photo for the article, I recommend getting something kind of generic so that you can have a photo available to use. Photos always kind of make your articles look a little bit more professional and people tend to be more interested. You can caption that photo if you'd like. You can use existing photos that have been used for news articles before, so you don't have to upload it new every single time, especially if you have one of those generic news images. Your article summary, you don't have to include. If you don't have one, you can choose to leave that blank, and then the system's not going to try to show one on the public side. Otherwise, it's going to show the first little bit of content of your article. The summary shouldn't just be the first phrase of your article. It should be what this article is about, so that people know what they're going to be reading. And then the content of the article goes in here. And again, all those same options that we have available from the web page option. As I scroll down, I get my email options. I can email news articles or using the email announcement form where I just type up an email and send it. I can send my emails out as I save this news article. So I can create it as an article, publish it on the website, and send it as an email newsletter all at the same time by clicking who I want it to go to. So if I want it to go to athletes and their parents and all of our coaches, I check that off. If I also want a copy to go to other website administrators like myself, I can do that. If I have the ref system, I can also have it go to officials or not. And then when it comes to your choices, if you have leagues or teams or both, you're going to see what I have here. And what we want to do is you need to make sure you're selecting the right option for who should get this. Is this something that's applicable to all of my currently assigned athletes and parents? Is it also applicable to people who aren't assigned to a team? And if so, use the control key or command key to select both of those options. If this only applies to boys U18 rep, I don't have to select all of these other ones. It's only going to go to these. You can use the control key to select as many as you need, but all assigned and unassigned is the option that's going to catch all of your players and parents in the system. Same thing goes for teams, all and unassigned. Anybody who is in your system as a player, parent, or coach is going to receive this email. You can also choose to post it to an official's notice board if you have that enabled. The news will automatically be on the public website unless you choose to hide it. And then whether or not you want to post it to Facebook is going to be dependent on whether or not you have that connection already set up by following the steps that are available here. So when I create this news article, I didn't enter a title. I didn't actually create a news article. I was just looking at the email. Sorry, I was just looking to see the confirmation page for it sending an email. But that is how we go ahead and do that. I am going to click on the email tab here just to see how we can go directly to sending an email announcement. The subject goes here, the body goes here, and then we see exactly those same options down below. You are going to see the same options for email configuration when you're creating a news article, an email announcement, or an event. So you can create your event and have it sent out as an email all at the same time. Once you have an email that has been sent, I think if I go over to my demo site, I should be able to show us really quickly an email that has been sent, because your sent email for the last 6 months will be listed there. I haven't sent very much. So email, this, this is an email, this is an email. And I'm only going to send it to my general information email subscribers, and we'll save just to have an email. So here it's showing me that I sent this. There was only one person that actually was on that list, and they're unsubscribed now from receiving my email. So that email announcement that I just sent went to absolutely nobody, but I can always view it again and find out why didn't it go to anybody. So we can see here that it was intended to go to no people, or one person, and it didn't go to that person because when I show the recipient details, it shows me that this person was unsubscribed. In general, you're going to see a whole lot more people receiving it than not receiving it. And we are just coming up to the very, very end of this. So I do want to show you just two more quick things. The other way to email, which is super popular, is going to be emailing from search results when you're reporting, most commonly with registration. If I had a player registration form open, I now have a bunch of players who are registered. So I go to my Find Players tool. Mine's labeled as athlete because I'm a multi-sport site. When I come in here, I have all kinds of search criteria, including the ability to restrict on registration forms in all kinds of different ways. And when I get my search results, I'm just going to type in a first name so that I don't get too many results here. When I get my search results, after having searched, I'm always going to have the option to email and export the list of results. Obviously, I'm concerned mostly with the email option here. So here are all of the people with either a parent or a player name of Amanda. I have a lot of personalities, so I can email the players. This is only going to email the player email address. I can also choose to email the parents or guardians, which is going to email the parent or guardian's email. Email all will email both the player and the parent email address. I strongly encourage you to click email all if you want to make sure that the player and parent receive the email, because oftentimes they're going to either only put the email in the players or only in the parent, and you do want to make sure that you're catching them all. This is showing me who's going to get this. I choose, yep, let's go and email those recipients. And now I do the same thing where I have a subject and a body of email. And I don't have to select my recipients because there are already people that meet my criteria. Oh, I already sent a message that had the same content, and I'm not able to send that within 7 minutes. So that's a little bit of a protection from accidentally sending the same email. But as you can see, it's going to go to the recipients that I selected here. The very, very last thing that I do want to show you, because I said I was going to come back to it, and I don't think I did. So I do apologize. I'm a couple minutes over. I'm going to go into our schedules settings in the area of bodies, where we have our association team options and our league options. This is where that division, team, and league come into play. These menu groups will behave as division groupings if I've chosen to place teams under that menu grouping. The order here I can change as far as who shows up in what order, so I can reorder all the groups to be in a different order than they are, or I can reorder within the groups from what they're currently ordered at. So ordering groups lets me put U15 down below soccer, save that menu grouping, and it's going to update the page for us so that now instead of U14, U15, we see soccer here next. Reordering the teams or the groups within is exactly as it sounds. You can save that team order. So a lot of times you'll want to order things usually kind of youngest to oldest or highest skill to lowest skill or vice versa, whatever makes sense to you. So that's where that division and menu grouping is going to come into play. If you just place leagues in your menu, it's going to try to place league names in your menu. And there could be too many of them for that to work. If you're primarily a league organization that happens to have a couple travel teams, you'll want to make sure your divisions are referring to your league groupings and not your team groupings. I'm just going to hop out and show the same thing through Manage Leagues because we have the same options and they will still behave as, in the same way. It's just which one of them is going to be the standard menu item. On this site in this moment, the menu grouping is in my demo site here is using the leagues as the menu grouping, but Trevor's demo site is using teams as the menu grouping. So when I click on this, it's well, it's going to show me all kinds of different things. So that's not the standard item that we were actually looking for, but team schedules here. This is divisions, but relabeled as team schedules and showing me now we can go directly to the girls team menu and see the rest of that team menu that's available here. So when you're trying to navigate, if you're not finding that your division or team dropdown is showing you the groupings the way that you want to play around with your menu groupings that are found in association teams or managing leagues in your backend so that if I see divisions and I see hockey, then I'm going to see all of these divisions available. So that's what we see over on mine. If I click on divisions, we can see hockey is a division. And then within that, here's all the leagues that are part of that division menu grouping. If I click on if I have other items such as standings, it's going to take me to the standings pages, but it's not going to show me the full division menu. So play around a little bit, especially as you're just getting started with your goal line site. Play around with your menus to make sure that the navigation is as logical as possible. And then if you do need to make some changes, you can make those changes and they're saved in real time. So you don't have to worry about any delay in getting those updates on the site. And you can always change things, multiple times if necessary. So that covers today's webinar. We looked at all the site configuration settings, including standard menu settings, how to create a web page, how to manage news articles, and how to send those email announcements either from news articles or from the email announcement form, and then also from your search results, which is a super handy option when you want to email people who've registered for a certain program. So if there are any remaining questions, I am taking a quick look at the chat to see if there's any last minute questions there, but you can always reach out to the support team if you have any further questions. Goal line support at stacksports.com is how you're going to email there. But you can also check out our YouTube channel for more webinar information, and our faq.goalline.ca is going to give you lots of great help material as well. So thanks so much for joining, and thanks for watching later if you weren't here live.